On the night of July 7, 1942, a small town in Mississippi was rocked by a series of strange, unsettling events that would remain unsolved for decades. The town of Pascagoula, known for its sleepy atmosphere and quiet streets, found itself at the center of an eerie mystery that captured the imaginations of locals and outsiders alike. This was the birth of the legend of the Phantom Barber. But what happened that night, and the weeks that followed, defied all logic and left people questioning the reality of what they thought they knew. It began with a seemingly harmless intrusion into the lives of the residents of Pascagoula. On the evening of that fateful night, a young woman awoke to find that someone had entered her home and, in the dead of night, cut her hair. Strangely, nothing else was taken or disturbed, just a small lock of hair. But that was just the beginning. As the days passed, similar incidents were reported all over town. The mysterious intruder, who would later be dubbed the Phantom Barber, seemed to target young women in the area, sneaking into their homes under the cover of darkness, cutting their hair, and then leaving without a trace. As these bizarre events unfolded, the fear and paranoia in Pascagoula began to grow. Neighbors whispered in hushed tones, eyes darting nervously over their shoulders. The once tranquil town was now the scene of a mystery that felt like it belonged in the pages of a horror novel. The town quickly became divided. Some thought it was simply a prank, an elaborate if bizarre joke. But as more incidents occurred, the sense of dread grew. How could someone sneak into houses and cut hair without being caught? And just when it seemed like the mystery might fade away, it escalated. The Phantom Barber's actions were no longer confined to harmless haircuts. The intruder grew bolder, entering houses with greater frequency and seeming to target not just the women, but anyone in his path. As the list of victims grew, so did the urgency of the investigation. Local law enforcement, along with the FBI, were called in to try and unravel the mystery. But despite their best efforts, the case only seemed to deepen in confusion. For months, investigators combed the town for clues. They interviewed the victims, searched for fingerprints, and tried to piece together a pattern that might explain the bizarre haircuts. But nothing added up. No signs of forced entry, no obvious motive, and no real leads. The Phantom Barber appeared to have no rhyme or reason behind his actions. He was a ghost, silent, elusive, and seemingly everywhere at once. The victims spoke of feeling a strange sensation in the air just before the intruder struck. A chill, a faint sound, or the feeling that someone was watching them. And in the cases where they woke up to find their hair had been cut, it was often just a lock or a portion, sometimes with no other evidence of the intruder's presence. But who could be behind these eerie haircuts? Was it the work of a prankster, or was there something more sinister at play? Theories began to swirl among the people of Pascagoula. Some believe it was the work of a deranged individual, someone with a fascination for hair, someone who enjoyed the act of stealing a part of someone's identity. Others believe the Phantom Barber was sending a cryptic message, though no one could decipher it. And still others whispered about the supernatural, suggesting that perhaps the barber was not of this world, that the acts could be explained by something other than logic. As time passed, the mystery surrounding the Phantom Barber became a legend of its own. Some townspeople began to wonder if the barber was simply a manifestation of the town's darker history. Pascagoula, like many small towns, had its own share of secrets, hidden stories, and unsolved mysteries. Could the Phantom Barber have been a figure from the past, a spirit, a cursed figure who had returned to settle old scores? Others suggested that the barber could have been someone closer to home, perhaps a former resident of Pascagoula with a long history of strange behavior. Some even believed that the acts were linked to an old feud or a personal vendetta that had spiraled out of control. After several months of terror, the Phantom Barber vanished as mysteriously as he had appeared. The cases stopped and no new incidents were reported. The investigation faded into the background and the town of Pascagoula gradually returned to its quiet, everyday life. But the question still lingers: who was the Phantom Barber? And why did he target these particular women? Was he just a deranged individual? Or was there something more to the story? Something that will forever remain a mystery? To this day, the story of the Phantom Barber remains unsolved, and the mystery continues to haunt the town. For the people of Pascagoula, this eerie chapter in their history serves as a reminder of the strange and inexplicable things that can happen in the dead of night. Perhaps one day, the truth will come to light. But for now, the story of the Phantom Barber is yet another unsolved mystery, one that may never have an answer. There are moments in history where the boundaries between reality and the unknown seem to blur, where truth escapes even the most trained investigators, and the unexplainable becomes the subject of endless speculation. The disappearance of Frederick Valentik in 1978 is one such case. A story that still sends chills down the spines of those who hear it. A young pilot flying solo seemingly vanishes without a trace, leaving behind a chilling radio transmission that would fuel theories of UFO encounters, government cover-ups, and inexplicable phenomena. This is the haunting story of Frederick Valentik. On October 21, 1978, Frederick Valentik, a 20-year-old pilot with just over 150 hours of flying experience, took off from Moorabbin Airport in Melbourne, Australia, in his Cessna 182. He was planning a routine flight to King Island, located about 160 kilometers to the south. On the surface, it seemed like just another day for Valentik, but things would take an unsettling turn before he ever reached his destination. The flight started normally. Valentik had no concerns, but as he made his way across the Bass Strait, he would soon encounter something that he could neither explain nor escape. As Valentik continued his journey, he reported strange activity over the radio. Around 7:06 p.m., he made his first call to air traffic control, reporting that he was being followed by an unidentified aircraft. His words were clear: "Melbourne, this is Delta Sierra Juliet. Is there any aircraft in the vicinity? I am being followed." At first, air traffic control assumed it was a case of a fellow pilot or a commercial aircraft in the area. However, Valentik's next words would raise alarms. He continued to describe a craft that seemed to be moving erratically, darting around his plane, and performing maneuvers that no ordinary aircraft could perform. His voice was calm, yet the tension in his words was undeniable. "It is a long shape, is shiny and metallic, and is orbiting on top of me." At this point, air traffic control asked Valentik for more details, but his responses grew more frantic. "I don't know what it is. I can't describe it properly. It's hovering and moving erratically. I'm not sure what's going on." As the unidentified craft appeared to draw closer, Valentik's words became more strained, his sense of confusion and panic increasing. Then, just before the transmission cut out, he made a final, chilling remark that would become forever etched in the mystery surrounding his disappearance. "Now it's directly above me. It's hovering, and it's not moving. I'm going to try and fly." And then silence. The last known transmission from Frederick Valentik was made at 7:12 p.m. After that, no further communication was received. The search for the missing aircraft began immediately, with search planes combing the area for any sign of the Cessna or Valentik himself. But despite extensive efforts, no wreckage was ever found. In the days that followed, no trace of the young pilot or his plane was ever discovered. The disappearance defied all logic. If Valentik had crashed, where was the wreckage? The search turned up nothing: no debris, no fuel slicks, no bodies. The mystery surrounding Valentik's disappearance soon began to attract attention from UFO enthusiasts and researchers. Valentik's final transmission, which described an aircraft that could outmaneuver his own, seemed to corroborate the claims of numerous UFO sightings in the area during that time. Some argued that Valentik had been abducted by an extraterrestrial force, and the mysterious craft he reported seeing had been a UFO. The unexplained nature of his encounter only fueled these theories, suggesting that perhaps something otherworldly had been involved. Some even speculated that the craft had caused Valentik's plane to crash, either through some form of sabotage or simply by inducing panic. Despite the possibility of UFO involvement, the official investigation into Valentik's disappearance was handled by Australian authorities. They concluded that no clear explanation for his disappearance could be found. The Australian Department of Transport conducted a thorough search, but found no wreckage. In their final report, they were forced to state that the cause of Valentik's disappearance was unknown. Some believe that Valentik may have become disoriented or experienced a mental breakdown, possibly induced by the stress of the situation. However, his prior training and experience as a pilot made this theory unlikely. Others suggested that his aircraft had suffered mechanical failure, but again, no evidence supported this claim. Theories about what happened to Frederick Valentik continue to evolve, but none have provided conclusive answers. Among the most prominent theories are the UFO theory, the idea that Valentik encountered a UFO that either caused his disappearance or took him aboard their craft remains one of the most popular, particularly among UFO enthusiasts. His final transmission, describing the craft's erratic movements, is central to this theory. The pilot error theory. Some believe Valentik's encounter was a result of confusion, possibly caused by a combination of fatigue, disorientation, and poor judgment. However, many experts find this explanation implausible, given his experience. The aircraft malfunction theory. Another possible explanation is that the Cessna 182 suffered a mechanical failure that caused Valentik to lose control and crash into the ocean. Yet, this theory fails to explain the lack of any wreckage. The mystery of Frederick Valentik's disappearance continues to haunt the minds of those who hear his story. His case is one of the most well-known instances of an unexplained disappearance, attracting a great deal of interest from both the public and investigators. Nearly 50 years later, his story has become an emblem of mystery, blending aviation, UFOs, and unanswered questions. What truly happened on that October night? Why did the young pilot's plane vanish without a trace? Was it a simple mistake, a tragic accident, or something more? As the years pass, the mystery of Frederick Valentik endures, and his disappearance remains one of Australia's most chilling unsolved cases. The case of Frederick Valentik may never be fully explained, but his story serves as a reminder of the vast unknown that still exists. Whether it was an alien encounter, a mechanical failure, or a case of human error, the truth remains out of reach, lost somewhere over the Bass Strait. And so, the disappearance of Frederick Valentik remains one of the most enduring mysteries of the 20th century.